Welcome everyone to another. We're doing these short segments with short stories with John, and to cover just little different aspects of his life and mob stuff related true crime podcast, as you guys know. But this week, I'm interested a little bit in your experience. You've been in a lot of different kind of jails, and you were telling me off air about a particular experience in the Fort Lauderdale prison. So that kind of stuck with you. So if you will, just elaborate on that, and how maybe that jail compares to others, and stories from your time there.
Well, I get locked up because of the incident on the street where I go to Fort Lauderdale prison, but I was probably in, I'd say, 15 different jails in Florida over the years. And on this incident, I'm on the street, and I'm with my brother-in-law, a guy, Timmy Donovan, that was one of my partners at the time in a parking company. He ends up testifying against me later on. And a girl, Dawn, that grew up with me. She used to work at Shooters, a club in Fort Lauderdale. And we go to a bar in Lauderdale in Pompano, and this guy, Ernie, owned the bar. And when we walk in, there's three guys. And back in the day, there was this show called Miami Vice. And these guys are jacked up, steroided out, big guys, I don't know, 300-pound guys wearing tank tops and the white jackets like they used to do in Miami Vice. And I walk in, and my brother-in-law goes in the back end of the bar because it's a club with plays music in the back, and the front different type of music. And I know the owner pretty good. I know the bartenders. Everybody knows me. And when you first walk in the bar, two uniformed police officers work the door. And a lot of clubs in Florida, this is typical. And he goes in the back. I go in the back. I have a drink. There's rose girls that walk around, and I'm in the parking industry, so a lot of them know me. Because I got different clubs in Lauderdale and Tampa, around 12 different states at that time. And later on, it was more than that, near 16 or 18. So I buy a bucket of her flowers to make her make some money, and I give it to the girl Dawn, who's just a friend. I mean, we're friends, and we're going up in the Champagne Lounge, and on the way up, it was similar to when the guy grabbed my, in another story I told, when he grabbed my scarf. This guy grabs my tie, and he pulls it, and he's laughing with his friends, and he's with a little girl, too, at the time. I didn't know at the time it was his sister. And they're all laughing, and I said to him, "What the fuck, are you stupid?" And Dawn's face drops because she knows me, and she knows, uh-oh, here we go. And my brother-in-law's not there. He's in the back part of the bar, and the guy, Timmy Donovan, is a complete, I don't know what word besides calling him a cunt, because that's what he is. He was a complete cunt, weasel. And his nickname was actually Weasel. That's what they used to call him, because he was a finagling bastard. But he hides. As soon as it goes off, he starts to run. I go, "Oh, what are you doing?" "I ain't a fighter." And I go back to the guy. I walk away, and I come back, and I said to him, "You ever touch me again?" I says, "You ain't gonna ever do anything again in your life." And he takes my face and he mushes me. I mean, he's a big guy, and he just puts his hand over my face and kind of mushes me and bitches me. And I laugh. I actually laugh. And I said to myself, this fucking idiot, this jerk off, So when I laugh, I'm steaming, but I'm laughing. I says, "Okay, I warned you, right?" Now, up top in the Champagne Lounge is a guy, Vinnie Butch. Vinnie Butch actually gets made in my house. His father is Joe Butch, who's captain with Gotti Sr. His son is a big kid. He's about 6'5", and he's with 3 or 4 guys. Now, he's watching the whole incident. Instead of coming down and helping me, he never comes down because he doesn't want a problem. These guys are huge. So he avoids it, and I, at the time, don't even know he knows about it. And I go back to the kitchen, and the guys know me. I go, "Give me that knife." And he gives me a little lemon cutter knife. And I go, no, not that knife. I said, "Give me that knife." It was a butcher knife. And I put the butcher knife behind my shirt. I walk back to the guy. I says, "You got a big fucking mouth, right? I warned you not to put your hands on me." And I says, you wanted a problem, right?" So he's like, "What? What?" And he goes to grab me again. I don't know if he was going to grab me by the throat or by the face again. And I take the butcher knife out, and I just put it through his neck. and he goes down like a sack of potatoes. He's bleeding all over. I grab a glass off the bar now because he's right by the bar, and I put it across his head, and his friend tries to come towards me just on an initial reaction. I don't think his friend was, and I stick him a little bit in the stomach, and they're both bleeding like crazy. And I'm throwing glasses on his head. I'm doing everything to him while he's down there and he's bleeding like a pig. And the police are in there and they pull guns on me. And all the music goes off, everybody's screaming, obviously. I'm full of blood now because it's squirting. And I don't know how they didn't kill me. Actually, the cops say it too on this incident, like, because I don't drop the knife right away. You know, when you're in a zone, you're not really paying attention to the police. You're not paying attention to anybody. You're just paying attention to who you want to get as your victims. And they pinch me. They strip me down. And they put me in the car, in the backseat of that police car, and they're trying to sort everything out. And they're getting an ambulance, and it's a zoo there. And they lock up a guy that kind of looked like my brother-in-law, but he was something wrong with the guy. And they put him in the back seat with me, and I'm in my underwear. They got all my clothes because of the blood. And they put it in a plastic bag to contain the evidence, I guess. And I'm trying to tell him this guy's, he's crying, the guy. But he's a little slow. He's not a normal. He was a nice kid, actually. Before that, in the club, I left that part out. I met him, and we're talking, and he had a side cap on, and I was buying him drinks. He wasn't drinking alcohol. He was drinking sodas. And I bought him a drink. I was talking to him, and he was a nice guy. And they finally let him out of the car. And they bring me to, I believe it was Broward County Prison. And when I come in, I start making phone calls off the payphone. And I'm talking to my brother-in-law and the girl, and they're saying, listen, man, they think this guy's going to die. And I'm like, back then I think they had the death penalty in Florida. And I'm like, what? And they says, yeah, they think the guy's going to die. Now I realize what I did. I'm like, I got to be a real jackass to do what I just did with two cops working the front door. And Richie Raybach's my attorney at the same time. And I call Richie Raybach, and I tell him what's going on. And he gets involved in the case. And the lawyer for, not the guy I stabbed in the throat, the other guy, ends up making statements saying they attacked me. And the reason why he did that is he found out that Gotti Sr. and Richie Raybach, they knew who Richie Raybach was, that he worked for Gotti Sr. And his lawyer asked Richie Raybach, do you work for him, and does he work for Gotti also, meaning Sr.? And Richie Raybach told him, yeah. And the kid goes, I'll sign anything you want to say that my friend started it. I don't want no problem. I don't want any issue. And he signed all kinds of testimonial paper. And about a week later, I get bail. I believe it was about a week. I get bail. The kid ends up living. He had like 2 or 3 operations, and he lives. I go to court, and right prior to my incident also helped me that he wore brass knuckles and beat some kid. He waited outside the guy's house, some young kid, small kid, and he beat him pretty bad. So he was supposed to be going to prison anyway, this guy that I stabbed up. And I end up beating the case with, I think, a simple assault or something like that, something nonsense because of the testimony of the other guy that sticks up for me.
So if there wasn't that testimony, then it would have been really bad for you.
Yeah, if that was a testimony, I would have had to go to trial. And I'm not sure back in those days if they had cameras. I think they did have cameras for some reason, even though, and I'm going back now. And this is back in whatever, in the late 80s, early 90s. I can't remember. No, the late 80s. Couldn't have been in the 90s yet. But yeah, if there had cameras, who knows? And, going to trial. Listen, the problem is legal law-wise is if I didn't go get a knife and I had a knife and he attacked me first or came towards me threatening and then I did that, yes, it's easy to beat. But with a butcher knife and me going to do it, it's kind of like a premeditated thing.
And what's going, yes, we know the stories of you going kind of crazy sometimes, but for this, describe to the people, and this is just interesting, this is, again, not glorifying it, but I just think for me as someone who's on the outside as well as hopefully everybody listening, just to understand your mindset and to understand your head. You said, you're so zoned in. What does zoned in look like in your head?
Well, I'm zoned in to get the guy that's trying to fuck with me, but I'm more zoned in, believe it, in those days of Gotti Sr., what he's going to think or want to do to me for making noise like this. But actually, Vinnie Butch is the one that makes the call back to Queens and goes to see Gotti Sr. and he tells him the story. So when I get out of jail, I'm more concerned about what he's going to do than my case itself. And as crazy as that sounds, because obviously back as a young guy, I respected him and I feared him. So when I go meet Gotti Sr. and he sits down with me and we're in his office and he goes, he starts to abuse me initially. What the fuck do you think you're doing? And then I said to him, John, what'd you want me to do? You see how big these guys were? I says, it's impossible for me to fight them with their hands. There's 3 guys, they're huge, they're houses. They're 6'4", 6'5". I says, and he goes, and then he tells me, the kid, Joe Butch, his son was there with his friends. He told me what happened. So I look at him and I said, I didn't know he was there. And I look at John and I said to him, well, if he was there, he's seen the size of him. I said, Vinnie's 6'5" himself. Why didn't he help me? And then it must have dawned on him there, and he just stopped for a second. He had a smirk, and he just shook his head, like, "Hey, you're right. Why didn't he help you?" He didn't think about it at that time, and he says, "All right, go ahead, kid. Don't worry. This is it's gonna resolve itself."
That's funny because so you're more worried after that about the implications it's going to have with John and just mob people rather than law enforcement.
Yeah, without doubt. The mindset wasn't about worried about. Actually, when I'm in the joint, they're all watching basketball. I turned the TV off, turned it to I don't remember who was fighting, but there was a boxing match on. And jail's a funny place. As soon as you walk in there, everybody knows it's all over. It's in the media already quickly that I got pinched. I guess breaking whatever they do, breaking news, and they spot it, and everybody knows I'm there for. I think I was charged initially for 2 counts, attempted murder and something else. So, you get, most of these counties, there's a couple serious guys, but for the most part. So when I turned the TV, nobody budged. Usually that's a fight. And, everybody knew word was already in the county as soon as I walked in, what I did. So that my thought process was watch the fights, get on the phone, talk to my brother-in-law a couple of times because he was giving me the feedback of the blow-by-blow of the hospital, what's going on with the guy. Is he going to die or live? And, when I first thought he was going to die, I said, I got a problem. I says, but you're also thinking, all right, maybe I could beat this case because they came after me. Everything's running through your head. And but the part of the lawyer knowing Richie Raybach wasn't running through my head. And for people that don't know who Richie Raybach is, he was the original partner of Bruce Cutler that was handling the Gotti's cases initially. And Bruce Cutler actually screwed Richie Raybach over and stepped in front of him. He was introduced to Gotti by Richie Raybach. And Richie Raybach had a falling out with them, and later on kind of didn't become the lawyer he should have been. He was a great lawyer, actually.
Well, we'll go into that perhaps on another of these shorter stories, but another great story. Thank you for that, and stay tuned, guys. We're gonna try to do these weekly, as we mentioned earlier, and we'll dive into all different aspects of mafia related and just different stories from John's life. Thank you.